What is good, homies? This is Chris from the Small Hat Crew, joined today by Sun Pirates, Trevor and Colin. Introduce yourselves to the beautiful, lovely people, the homies.
Hey, my name is Trevor. Yeah, I'm a part of the Sun Pirates. Nothing else to really say.
Any accolades or accomplishments? Why should people value your opinion, Sun Pirates, Trevor?
Oh God. I play the game on the daily. I got a few top 16s, I have one top 8. Dude, I can't even be proud of it, dude. I suck at this game. Let me tell you guys.
At least you won a cereal.
That is true. I have at least one cereal in my life, and it's a Luffy. It's better than most, honestly. I'm already cringing at what I've said so far, so take it away, Colin.
Colin, take it away.
Hi, I'm Colin. I'm, I guess, what you would call the captain of the Sun Pirates TCG. Unfortunately. No, I'm kidding. I guess I'm technically like top 50 in Limitless if you look on the North American rankings. So that's kind of cool, I guess. My top 64 nationals, like, in January, I have a 3rd place Treasure Cup finish. Top 16 to a few regionals. Check out Sun Pirates TCG in maybe like a few days when Chris is on our channel doing our ban list reaction video.
Yeah, if you want to see my reaction, you're going to have to head over to the Sun Pirates. The only way to do that is to drop a subscription. I mean, yeah, you could probably just go over there, watch the video, but I'm gonna say that's physically impossible. You do have to hit that subscribe button. Yeah, so what we're doing here today is the highly requested, the ban list predictions. We have ban worthy. These are cards that there isn't really any disagreement or anything. Cards that just objectively are unhealthy for the game and shouldn't be here. There's problematic but not ban worthy. These are cards that, like, maybe the card is overtuned. Maybe the card's way more powerful than it should be, but it doesn't even, like, teeter on the, you know, worth being considered for a ban. And then finally have annoying but not problematic. That's for cards that, like, maybe it's high roll or maybe it's Saki or something, and, like, you lose to it and you personally want it banned, but you're able to recognize that as a whole the card itself it's fine and it really probably shouldn't be going anywhere. So all the cards that will be discussed today are cards that a decent portion of the community has discussed or echoed that they believe should be banned or is problematic or should be limited in some kind of way, and just stamp stuff like that. Actually, you know what, debatable. I'm gonna change it. I'm gonna change this to limited.
Can we also change one to, like, errata, or, like, add? I don't know if you can add one, but, like, errata would be really good, because I don't think
like restricted / errata. I think those kind of do the same thing.
I like that.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
There we go. All right, we have retconned the tier list. It is now restricted / errata. So, all right, we'll go ahead and jump into this one. The discussion starts, of course, with red purple law. This is a highly divisive, actually it's not very divisive at all, is it? Very controversial leader. This is one that people just think outright should be banned. What are your takes on this leader?
The discussion should start where we're like, leaders should not be banned. A leader should be errataed in a proper way, not like just shot in the face like Sakazuki was.
Yeah.
And one way to do that with, like, purple law or red purple law is, like, and it's weird to say this, but, like, it's just how the cards are fashioned, is, like, make it where he can only shambles in purple cards. All of the Hearts Pirates cards that have been recently released that are playable for the most part, except for, like, Toy Law and like the 2K Beppo, are all purple. Like, theme these characters, theme these leaders, because at the end of the day, like, that's kind of like the whole point of One Piece and why it can be really good. It can be creative and competitive. Don't shoot somebody like you did Sakazuki and just make it an absolute bottom of the tier leader when he was at the top, right? Like, at least put him somewhere. Make him something worthwhile. Like, that's a crazy color combination. Make it worthwhile to play the black, blue, navy leader. Make it worth it while to play the red purple Hearts Pirates leader. I think other than that, though, I don't think it should be banned. A leader should, like, my point stands, just leader should never be banned.
So I do also agree that he should be errated in some way. I think there's a few different ways they could go about doing it. I know Nick always says that he thinks that his effect should either be you get to do one or the other, the bottom deck or the play a card. Another suggestion a lot of people say is you should only play a Heart Pirates card specifically. And then I know another very popular suggestion, the one that I specifically, because he's half red, I don't think he should be bottom decking. I think KO is something that he should be doing if he's doing any form of removal. Or if we're gonna keep it on flavor, like lore wise, I think that he should be bouncing a card to the hand. Now that's a blue identity, but the reason I say bouncing is because Shambles, realistically, you know, the whole identity behind it is they switch places. If my guy's coming out of my hand to the board, your guy should be going from the board to the hand. So that's what a Shambles would realistically be doing.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
But even then, I don't really like the idea of like red, purple balancing. I do think he should either just KO or have a much heavier restriction on what comes out of him, or maybe even like because he's minusing three Dawn, maybe he doesn't play anything like above a 3, you know, because I would keep him from playing things like Kid Killer and Reiju and stuff like that. So yeah. I don't know. Colin?
Yeah, ultimately I would say probably somewhere between Banworthy and Errata. Like, I'm just trying to think like how they would balance this lead. I think this leader is a little bit overtuned, and over time, if he's just left unchecked, there will be like other Black Marias down the line that won't be printed. That's kind of my take on it. So I wouldn't be surprised. I personally wouldn't be surprised if they outright ban the leader and
me either.
Like, unfortunately, give it the same Sakazuki treatment where they give it a promo version. That's just significantly worse. I mean, hopefully when they make the promo version, it's not like that much worse like Sakazuki was, but yeah, I could see something along the lines of like you said, only playing hard pirates off of the Shambles ability, or like KOing, or I would even think something like maybe if it's templated in such a way, maybe it's like minus some amount of active Dawn instead of being able to like play a 4-drop and then immediately -3, because I think that's where a lot of the power comes from.
I also do think like I don't like if he's playing a 4, because I've seen some people suggest that like because he plays a 4 cost, he should like -4 Dawn instead. And yeah, I do think realistically, I don't think it's likely he gets an errata. I do think he probably does just get banned. I think Bandai's track record leans more heavily in the direction of them just banning the leader, because we've seen it with Whitebeard and Sakazuki. Yeah. So he'll probably follow suit. I think if this leader weren't to get errata though, if they were not to errata him anyway, this leader should just be banned. Just because he limits like card design for red and purple cards 4 and less moving forward. Is this our consensus here then? Restricted errata, or do we throw him in ban instead?
It's like somewhere in the top 2. It's like somewhere in between.
Alright, we'll just float him in between.
Yeah.
Okay, next we have Gordon. People are saying they think that Gordon should be banned. I don't think Gordon is a problem, if I'm being entirely honest. Outside of law, what is this card doing? What is red doing? You know, so
well, it's not just that though. It's like when you have to like when you're discussing like banning cards, you have to understand why you're banning a card, and does it kill multiple decks? Does it just kill a deck, right? Like,
right.
We don't want anyone, because this is a game loved by so many, like we don't want to just kill a deck, right? We want to make sure that it's playable in some sort of fashion.
Yeah.
And the only way Red is doing that with RP Law is playing its game is like having these cards. Not searchable, by the way. Let's put this out there. Not searchable. These cards are like, I see maybe 2 a game sometimes, and then sometimes I just brick on 5. Like, you're not these are not like crazy cards. They can be very good, but they're not like, oh my god, he had the 3rd or 4th Gordon, ban the card kind of card. Really, I don't think that's gonna be.
No, I agree. I also do think with Gordon, it'd be dumb to ban him, considering a 3rd Gordon is coming out in OP09. So what would be the point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't even think he's a problematic card. I think he's fine. He's literally not problematic whatsoever.
I think if he gets banned, it's like it would. I'm pretty sure law decks would just play the same, like 4 race maxes and then probably like 4 Otamas at the very least, or something to that extent.
Yeah, because also too, if you were to hit this card, you're hitting this card specifically for red purple law. But if you're going after red purple law, Gordon's not the card you'd be going after anyway, right? So, Kid Killer. This card is I think the card that facilitates law closing out games. And I think just like Gordon, outside of red purple law, I don't think this is a problematic card, so I don't think it makes sense to take a tool from red as a whole, which is a color that's not performing, you know, outside of red purple law. So
this is actually where my take is. Okay. Funny enough, I think this is actually the card they should be banning.
Really?
And so the logic behind it is that this is what's closing out games, right? You're shotgunning 2 of these on the board, and you're able to close out a game randomly. But if we hit, like, again, discussing cards like not wanting to ban other decks out, you can't ban Reiju, because then Reiju is just not a deck anymore. You legitimately cannot play that deck.
Right.
You don't want to ban Gordon, because then RP Law is not a playable deck. because that's the whole idea premise of how the deck works. Is you're able to like minus something for 1 Dawn and then shambles it out, right? Like that's how the deck works. Don't ban the leader, because then you're hurting the people that want to just play Law and in the fan base on that. Ban the card that technically doesn't. All it does is enable closing games, but there are ways for Law to close games in other fashions. They don't need this card. This was just an added extra, like an added benefit that didn't need to be printed. And this is the only deck that's using it effectively. I think Colin kind of agrees there, but yeah, I'll let him take it away on the rest.
Yeah, so like, this Kid Killer card is probably what breaks the most rules with the Law deck, as far as like the weakness of Law on paper and even before EV1 came out was that when you use the Shambles ability a lot in the mid to late game, you're supposed to like not have a whole lot of Dawn to work with, so it's harder to like close out a game because you're not swinging for tall numbers. But Kid Killer breaks that rule,
right? Where
like you're going white and now you have tall swings at the end. Yeah, I pretty much fully agree with what Trevor's saying, is that if you want to tone back the RP Law deck as it is currently and into OP8, Kid Killer's like not a bad ban. Again, I could see this card getting power creeps towards like OP like 10, 11 and so forth, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there, I suppose.
I do think like if you were to like, for example, hit Kid Killer, Red Purple Law isn't the menace it is whatsoever. But I also do think that like I don't think you'd go for a card in Red Purple Law. I think you'd go for the leader himself, because I think he himself, for example, like 9 or 10 or whatever, like if this card were to ever fall out of favor, it's probably because like Law's abusing other things moving forward. Because I do think the leader ability itself inherently is the problem. He limits design space so much, because moving forward you make it hard to justify giving red and purple cards like this to play around with, because while they're not doing, no other leaders abusing them, Law is. So now like the colors suffer overall because they're just not allowed to play with cards like this because of Law. But this is democratic, so there he goes. All right.
So this is something that I want to also say here is like, maybe he's not fully ban worthy, but if you were to hit Law in some fashion that isn't hitting the leader, and of course Black Maria, get the fucking card out of the game, right? We know that. But that doesn't need to be a discussion. That we know that card. It's, if we're discussing this, I actually think this is in the same situation as RP Law leader itself. Is like, do something with this, but don't. I'm okay with both options, limiting it like they did with Whitebeard and Marco back in the day, or just ban it. This card does not need to be a 4 of, and I don't need to be just randomly killed out of nowhere because this guy had like 6 Dawn. He's able to go 7/7/7, and I had 2 cards in hand and I had 0 counter in life, and that's just something that can happen.
Yeah,
and that limit, like it's a lot of my issues with Black, but we'll get there when we get there. But yeah, I don't know if it's fully ban worthy, but I think honestly, if you don't mind just throwing it in the middle, we'll just make it a weird list.
We'll do it again.
We'll do it again. I mean, if I can, like,
it's the leader. Okay, all right. This is Red Purple Law.
Okay. It is an issue. It is an issue. I just don't know where. I don't know if Colin has a better idea, but I don't know a direction that they could take it. I just don't want leaders hit. That's just my point on banning cards. I just hate when we ban like players decks. You're not banning. Imagine buying the entire RP Law deck and then your deck gets banned.
Someone in my Discord did.
Exactly, right? Like that's not healthy. Like it doesn't promote gameplay. Like doesn't promote me to play the game. If like, oh yeah, I'm gonna play the game because I want to play RP Law, and then it just gets shot in the head. Like get that out of here.
Reiju. This card is realistically, I think that I think this is the card that most heavily allows Law to steal games. I think this is the thing that most prevents Red Purple Law from just being steamrolled over, because he always has a hand. Because if it weren't for Reiju, realistically, it'd be so easy to just map out lethal on Law repeatedly, because he plays out of the hand. When he counters and everything, like his hand would just deplete over the course of the game. Because like if you ever play into a Red Purple Law that doesn't see the Reiju, it's kind of free. But the Reiju is kind of the problem. With that being said, I don't think that this is a problematic card in any way. I just felt that was worth mentioning is all.
This card cannot be, like, we cannot ban this card because of the blue-purple Reiju deck. She's arguably the most broken card in the deck, and kind of like Kid Killer, she breaks a lot of rules.
Yeah.
Where, like, you're like a go-white deck that's, like you said, like, playing out of your hand a lot.
Yeah.
And Reiju just lets you do that for free.
Yeah,
restricted but not banned. That's what I would say.
You'd restrict her? Well, I think if you were to restrict her though, that would kill Reiju, right?
Yeah, excuse me, like restrict her in a way where like she's not allowed to be played.
Oh,
with the
right,
leader.
right.
But you can play 4 of her and like the actual Reiju leader, of course.
Okay, so I think that would throw her into problematic but not ban worthy. Black Maria. So I'm gonna lead off on this one actually because I have a hot take. All right, because I already know that me and Trevor don't agree. So actually,
we might agree, but I'll
no, you said this card should be banned already, so I already know where you stand on this. I actually don't think Black Maria is a problem because the way I look at this card is only being abused by red purple law, whereas all other purple leaders in the game, this is something that they need to still not even be like mid tier. I think this is what keeps them even in trying to compete. So I feel like this is a necessary evil for purple as a whole. I think the only reason this card is degenerate is because of red purple law. Funnily enough, the other abuser of this card would actually be Reiju. But yeah, I think like for example, like if I'm playing against like, I don't know, I guess this is intended for 3 different leaders at this point. There's like Mono Kaido, there's Mono King, and now we have Black Purple King coming out. And like, I don't think this would ever be considered like a problem in any of those leaders, even if it's like an Iceberg or like a Purple Luffy drop this or something. Or like, I think the main conversation people are talking about right now is Red Purple Luffy, like being able to go like Sun Got Nika and then drop this next turn to go right back up to 8. So yeah, there is that, but like, I don't think that makes any of those decks a problem. I think the problem always realistically just comes back to Law as a leader. So that's why I don't think this is a ban-worthy card. But so that is my stance.
Actually, I agree with you, Chris. I don't think any other purple leader actually uses this card. Like, nowhere near to the extent that Law does. Like, yeah, I mean, I guess there's the starter deck, Purple Kaido, but like,
Yeah,
that deck needs a lot of help anyway. Of course. I'm just trying to think what other purple... Like, I don't even think Reiju uses this card very well, because you have to... The thing is, for every other purple leader, you have to pay the 3 Don to get her on the table.
Yeah, that's true.
Law doesn't necessarily, like... Law, you can just negative 3 Don for her. I don't think this card's, like, that much of a problem if, like, the Law leader's not a thing.
Yeah.
And again, it comes back to the same thing of, like, if she just said, like, she can only be played with Animal Kingdom leaders, or if they just make a rule saying you cannot play Black Maria in a red-purple Law deck.
Yeah, I think she's a prime example of a card that actually should just be eroded.
Yeah.
She should be leader locked.
I mean, realistically, like, that's where I do believe... I don't disagree with you guys, but the issue is like, you guys were kind of saying is, like, no other deck's playing this card. So just, like, in my head, because they're probably not gonna errata it, just ban it. Because I don't believe they would errata... We can barely get them to... Like, they errated a leader, and that was it in the game right now. They've only errated a leader, I believe.
It wasn't even errata. It wasn't even really like an errata though, because like it tanked Sakazuki's like value. You know, they did it was convoluted roundabout way.
Yeah, they just completely made a new card.
Yeah, right. So I don't think they're gonna ever errata a card. Okay, I mean we all cope that they will, but if they don't ever errata a card, just ban it. No other deck's using it. I get it. I want Burn Kaido to be a thing, but we just can't. There's no way. This card is not good in any other deck. That just can't cheat it out.
With that being said, God, that's so hard to place. I
think that right there is fine. I'm not disagreeing with. Like I said, I don't disagree with you guys. It's just the idea that if they don't, I don't think they're gonna errata it. Just ban it. We can at least leader lock it, and because that doesn't take an errata, right? Like you can just in the rule book state that this card cannot be played with this leader.
For the record, too, it's like to solve Law as far as his balancing.
Mm-hmm.
Those top 4 cards, it's just one of those top 4 cards needs to be hit to like balance a deck, in my opinion. It's not like we need like 2 out of 4, all 4 to be hit. It's just at least one is good enough.
Yeah.
I think the most worthy of being hit, I would say, is the leader. As tough it, and like, and I know we just said we don't like banning leaders, but like, if like ultimately we might have to like give Law the Sakazuki treatment, but hopefully just not like nerf him to the ground like the promo Sakazuki.
Yeah.
I don't know how they would go about it, but that sounds like the most fair way of going about it.
I guess moving on, so we come to our final red card. We have Moby Dick. This is I'll let you talk on this one, Trevor.
It has to stay banned.
Really?
It's a really So the unfortunate thing about this card is like, and we're talking about it in law, right? Like we just talked about it in law, where like Kid Killer breaks the idea that like all of a sudden, if you have little to no Dawn left, or it's all tapped, you now are just swinging for plus 2k. And this doesn't even have like, this isn't even based on your opponent's health. This is just based on yours. And in most Whitebeard decks, even in Marco, you're safe to go down to like 1 or 0 because of how the decks play. And the other issue with this card is it's not leader locked. So you can play it like back in the day, we would play it in Luffy. Yeah. Because in set 2, you could play just big body Luffy, have this card in your deck, and now your Little Ors, your Thatches, and your Atmoses are now swinging for plus 2k. That was an issue. And that needed to be solved. And the way to solve it, just ban it. You can't bring it back. It cheats the Dawn system, and that's the reason we love the game, right? For me at least, like it's the Dawn system.
Yeah, it's really love the game. Yeah,
exactly right. So like, if a field spell that no one can pop, I believe.
Yes.
There's like maybe a pop for it, but like you're not playing those pop cards, right? So,
right.
Like,
exactly.
Yeah. So just keep it banned. I would love it. Let me just say that I would love for it to come off the ban list, but it ain't happening. It cheats everything about. It just cheats everything about the game, especially with cards like Ace, who are unkillable now. Like a 5/8 rusher. Do you guys? That's crazy.
That is pretty huge.
Like you could play 2 of those on the same turn. 5/8, 5/8, and then just swing your leader for 7 if you're playing Marco, or swing your leader for 8 because you're playing Whitebeard, right? It's like it does too much. It does too much. We have to keep it banned. That's my rant. Sorry.
I feel like the other decks in the format as of OP, I would even argue maybe even OP7 decks might be at the power level that can keep up with this card nowadays. That's my I think Lucci can probably keep up with this card. That might be kind of a hot take, but
I don't think you're necessarily wrong. We're getting close to that. But like right now, Whitebeard can do well into Rob Lucci already, right? And we don't even have the card. And now imagine like you're already little to no counter deck just starts getting shoved by 8k swings. Because how I'm playing the deck right now is like I don't play the 9 beard, right? I just play for like rush and take every life. So like I'm quickly going down to boat rage.
Yeah, I would agree. It probably doesn't do anything good for the format if it were to come back, so might as well keep it banned.
Yeah. It's funnily enough, like, cause like I actually didn't think the card was problematic, realistically, because I felt like power creep had caught up, but like I don't see how the game benefits from it coming back, so I guess there isn't really any reason to bring it back. And you're also the Whitebeard player, you got your tops with it and everything, so that's just me like going based off of like what what makes sense on paper to me, whereas you actually like put the time into the deck, so I'll take your word for it.
I would love to be proven wrong. Don't get me wrong. For everybody out there, I'd love to be proven wrong. But like, it's just like, again, we just talked about it with Kid Killer. It cheats the Dawn system. It makes it where like you're all of a sudden swinging for 2k higher. And it's not just on Kid Killer. It's on every Whitebeard card. And when you think about it, like, you guys have to understand now, Ezos are swinging for 5 for 1 Dawn. They're swinging for 7s with Machino. Or 6s with Machino. Or 7s, 7s, right? Yeah, it's 7s, because it's plus 3k.
Yeah. Ezos swinging for 5 is kind of scary.
Yeah, like you don't think about it until you're like, oh shit, everything's a swinger now. It's not just the fact that the leader's an 8k or like this random other body's plus 2k. It's every card. Jozu's another factor. The Rush Jozu is a 7k bot, or is a 7k body now. It's not a 4/5 rush. It's now a 4/7 rush. Like, that's crazy.
8-drop kid. I think the same. So the argument I was initially going to give for Whitebeard, or I guess Moby Dick, where like I felt like the game had caught up. That's how I feel about 8-drop kid. I don't think this card is a problem at all anymore, and I feel like every deck has like semi-consistent answers to it at the very least. Even green itself with like Zoro, I guess. Like, I don't know.
Dude, just put all these green cards at the bottom tiers. Who cares?
Yeah.
Like, honestly, that's the same explanation for the rest of these green cards on here.
Yeah. So then it was the Hody, he's also annoying. Yeah. Zoro. Bro, he literally does nothing the turn he comes out.
Who asked for Zoro to be on here? That's what I'm
Bro.
wondering.
A guy who got beat by a manga Zoro. I know it. It's somebody out there that got slapped 3 times by a manga Zoro, and I was like, wait a minute, that card's a
Ban that
menace.
card.
Yeah.
Ban that card. It sat on the other side of the board, and I stared at it.
He costs 9.
Okay, so next we come to Nami. So this is a card I've been very vocal about in the past about feeling she needed to be banned because I felt she limited card design because you couldn't really give blue draw cards because they'd always be stuck in the Nami. However, I do think Bandai, one of the things they have done right is they've gone about making it so that most of the cards we now gain that draw cards, they go like draw 2, bottom 2. I think that's specifically with Nami in mind. So now that they're doing that, I don't think she's actually ban worthy anymore.
It's definitely leader that's breakable. Oh, I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's like there will always be a camp of people that will say that Nami doesn't do anything good for the format, but then there's like the other side of the discourse that will be like, no, this is how I like to play the game.
Yeah,
I don't know why,
which is a crazy argument.
I don't know why you enjoy the game this way. You know, to each their own, right? Like, I mean, we know some locals that are like diehard Nami fans, and like, granted, they really take pride in, you know, learning the nuances. So I don't know. It's a tough call.
I will say, so one of the reasons too, God, it's so crazy. I remember too, like when I used to always say she was bannable. People used to always give me so much shit for it in the past. And it really was because she did limit like blue card design. Like blue, they started doing weird stuff like giving like blue, like they printed like an ulti. It was like you had to have like a dual leader to get the draw and stuff like that. They were doing weird things to avoid giving Nami the draw. But then they eventually just start doing the bottom deck thing, which is I think is great. One of the new reasons I do think that I no longer think this card needs to be banned also is because I feel like unlike Red Purple Law, where like if you weren't to errata him, he's like pretty much impossible to balance because he just limits red and purple so much moving forward. I feel Nami though, if she's ever a leader that's problematic, I feel like it's so easy to hit 1 or 2 cards in her and fix her, you know?
Yeah, I would agree.
I don't like the leader because what it does is it makes you play different and not in a healthy way, right? Like you're not playing One Piece when you're playing against this deck. Because like some decks can legit just cannot beat this deck because it's too slow, and that's really bad. If like in a 9-round tournament, if I walk into a Nami player as a Lucci, I think I just lost. Like I just lost one of my rounds usually. Like yeah, as a Gecko too. Yeah. Like it's Bro. Gecko even has a better chance because it runs Perona. So like there's a chance, right? There's a better chance. Yeah. But like Lucci's just lose to this deck. They're too slow, and Nami's too fast now. And like you said that like they have like draw bottom deck stuff. They just printed a 3-drop blocker that just draws them a card.
Yeah, I don't get what that was about. I will also say one of the reasons I could very easily justify just banning her is because because the argument I used to make in the past was that when she wasn't performing as well as she was, I always argued that she should be banned because she limited card design. But I do think the new argument, or one of the arguments I used to make back then, that I think still applies to this day, is that I just think she promotes a very unhealthy playstyle. You know, she forces solitaire. There's no interaction between you and the opponent. Like she's kind of just like a knowledge check, and then sometimes like even despite knowing what you're supposed to do, like you just can't. It's not sufficient, you know, just because she's gotten so much faster. So
again, it's tough. Like I was saying before, it's like some people genuinely enjoy this type of gameplay, and I think it's like we can't really alienate the Nami community, so to speak, in the sense that I think everyone should be allowed to enjoy the game on whatever axis they want to play it on. Is a Nami deck too powerful as it currently is? I don't think so. And I kind of like your point earlier too, where like if there is something broken about her, you can just ban one of the main deck cards, because come to think of it, is like if there's a Nami card that's bannable, it would be a card that's just played in Nami specifically. I'm pretty sure like there's no single blue card that would be banned in Nami that wasn't, or that is like pivotal to like another blue deck that would completely cripple it.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, if it was like that, the card probably shouldn't exist in the first place. So
Just ban
Yeah.
Kaya. Just ban
ban
Kaya.
Kaya.
Get that crap out of here. If you're playing your game, if you have to play reactionary in that deck, you should not be able to just all of a sudden switch and just play aggressive. That's the issue with that deck, is like they can play really passive and then just shotgun 3 Kayas and they've won the game. And it's like okay, well wait, I just played the grind game with you, and then on the last turn or whatever turn it is, it's like you're now down 12 cards out of deck or 6 cards out of deck, and you have like 5 left. It's like, okay, yeah, you got it, dude. Like I can't do anything against that.
It's like you're swinging for a lethal, but she wins
Right.
because Gavel
Yep.
decks out before you connect. You know, it's so degenerate, it's stupid. I do think she's very problematic, but I don't think she is ban worthy. At least
can
not
agree.
right now. Black Blue Sakazuki.
No.
yeah, keep it banned.
Can he come back? Okay. Oh, there
This
he
is coming from someone that's like
Oh,
won like
I wasn't
thousands of
sure.
dollars thanks to this leader. I'm like, you should just keep this card banned. This leader carried me way too hard.
It's the reason that card's the reason I hate
God.
One Piece. I know, like, it's funny, but like that's the reason I hate One Piece, is that card.
Kabaji. So I guess with us deeming this not ban worthy, then I guess this would stay on the ban list, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
This card needs to just be like Thanos snapped out of existence. This card should not exist.
We move on to Gavel.
Put it down there with the green cards. Put it
Yeah,
down there
no,
with the
that's
green cards. It's okay.
White Snake. It's the card Nami uses to gain 1k for the turn. I think this card's very annoying, but I don't think this is.
I hate.
I think this is the card that prevents Gecko from being able to win that matchup. But I do also think that every deck should
It's
probably
probably
have a
not
bad
ban
matchup,
worthy,
so I don't
but
think it's
man,
bad
I
that
hate
Gecko
this card.
loses to
Like
this
I've said this several times before. If there's any card that would get banned out of the Nami deck, I think it probably would be that card. That
Yeah.
card breaks
It's-
like a few rules. Like I don't think we would go through with it.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick it in problematic but not ban worthy. Because I don't think this card does warrant a ban, because I don't think Nami warrants a ban realistically. But I am gonna say I do think it is problematic that a single card can make a matchup nearly unwinnable for like black
Yeah.
leaders. I think that's ridiculous. That's the only reason I'm sticking that there. I think it's crazy that one card could have that much influence over a matchup. Next we have Gravity Blade. I don't think this card's a problem. It's 7 Dawn. It's your entire turn.
Yeah, no.
Can you just delete that image off the tier list? Like, just like who? If you guys,
You know what?
Blue is struggling. Let's talk about this for we'll talk about this for a brief second. Aggressive blue decks are struggling. Why would we get rid of the card that is damn near the only reason they can stay in the meta even a little bit? Even a little bit.
Harsh move
People
there.
just don't want to see blue thrive.
Yeah, like the fact that no one wants to say blue prosper is crazy. Whenever we've been in like a black red meta for the entire time in One Piece right now, it's like blue didn't even get played in Sakazuki. It was what was it, 42 black cards and then 8 blue cards, and the only 8 blue cards were 4 searchers
Yeah.
and 4 hound blazes. Like, get out of here! Like, we don't.
It's why when some people talk about like Sakazuki coming back, they're like, it's gonna be so crazy to see like Sakazuki like playing this, and I'm like, he could have played it before and he didn't play it then.
Yeah,
Why would he play it now? Yeah, so I don't see.
It was a free.
That makes no sense to me.
It was a free -2 on board at all times usually, because you're either running stage or like you just, or it was a free -1. But either way, yeah.
Bro, it's like I can either Gravity Blade you, or I can Gecko Moria sword you. Like,
Yeah.
Next we have Great Eruption. Bro, look. As a Gecko player, I want this card to come back so bad.
Yeah, the more I think about this card, like now that it's been gone, I'm like, on the one hand, I miss it personally because I was a Sakazuki player, but on the other hand, it probably should stay banned. This card is just a little bit too good for what it did. It's like I come from a Magic background where they banned a lot of cards like these that are what we call cantrips. They're like small, cheap cards that draw a card and get like this bonus effect that's usually kind of subtle, but actually like it's like subtly powerful, where you're playing a 46 card deck and it just adjusts so many creatures down to like the size that you need to kill them easily. I think this card was just a little bit too good.
Yeah, I think so. I think before we do place this card, I do think, because it's basically going to be the same conversation, but I do think it'll play a lot. I think we'll discuss Tempest Kick.
I've been playing against this card a lot. My take on the card is it's definitely not bannable. Limited, yes. I've been playing a ton of RP Law versus Lucci. If you are aggressive enough, this card is just a draw. Funny enough, it's just you can make them not have a trash, and it's just by being aggressive, and that's what that deck is going to do. Into the Lucci deck is like force them to not have a trash, and it having that restriction is very nice, and it's subtle, but it's there. I understand in some of the slower matchups they will always have 10 and trash, but like, okay, like they need to be in the slower matchups. They need a -3 to be able to deal with Anel's board, right? Like Janelle would be a losing matchup in most cases if they didn't have access to this card. I don't know if Colin can give some insight on that as well, as he played a little bit of Lucci himself, but that's how I feel. Like the card's needed. It's definitely not like as good as Eruption. That's the biggest takeaway from this. It's not as good as Eruption, and it needs to be
The reason why Eruption is like so strong is because the shrink just you can do it whenever you want.
Yeah.
Whereas like the Tempest Kick needs setup. Like you really can't Tempest Kick until like for the full 3 shrink, you probably can't do it until like at least your 6, 7, 8 Dawn turn.
Yeah.
And even 6 or 7 Dawn, you have to go pretty hard on span dams to like really get to that 10 graveyard.
Yeah. Bro, you know how many people said I was stupid for saying that this card would not see playing Gecko Moria? They're like, your leader Mills, what do you mean? It's like, bro, you would, if everything went right, this probably wouldn't be doing, you probably wouldn't be getting anything off this. Yeah, it's like
that's Gecko, you have to work pretty hard to get to 10 trash.
Yeah.
Bro, it's especially too because it's like, sure, your leader ability is like going like putting 2 in trash or whatever, but it's like, bro, if I like just want to hog back to pick up a Gecko, that's 2 of my trash gone just right there, you know?
Or
like,
Absalom too.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you're realistically, this card probably won't be doing anything till like your, I want to say on a high roll, this doesn't minus until like your 4th turn maybe. You know, I think realistically maybe the 5th. And then if you ever do like a Gecko Absalom or whatever, maybe even further out. So like, so it's why when I do look at a card like this, I do see Lucci being able to like get the draw and minus off of something like this. Sometimes I do feel like, man, that's BS. This card should come back and this one should get banned so that at least all black leaders get to do it. But objectively, this card is literally just worse greater option. This card is just worse greater option. Yeah.
A lot of times in our testing, it's just a draw 1, which is good. Don't get me wrong. It cycles, which is what Lucci still wants. Decks still want. They want to dig deeper to their Morias and stuff. But the -3 is if it was activated, like the game state was already in a weird, like it's sorry, I can't vocalize what I'm trying to say other than just shut up about the card. Good God.
Yeah, no, I agree. I do think too, like it's like the whole bias thing of like not being able to play this in Gecko while Lucci's able to play this, but I also do think it's probably healthier overall that you don't go into every black matchup and have to deal with a card like this. Like something like this being exclusive to Lucci is probably better than going to a matchup where like Gecko on his 5 Dawn turn plays a 4 cost and pops. So he spends 5 Dawn and pops a 4, you know? So, yeah, this card, as much as I do love it and as much as I do want it back, that it's purely out of nothing more than bias. I don't think this card's annoying even. I think
it's almost in the same. It's almost in the same tier as like Gravity Blade for me. It's like just delete the card off the tier list. Don't talk about like it's a card, guys. Like there are going to be good cards in the game. Don't overreact to a card that legitimately a lot of times it's just a draw 1.
I will make this call out though, in that I could see a world where they hit this for the reason that. Hold on, I'll read you the notes that Arvin gave me because he was watching this video. No, he didn't actually say this. I was just double checking. But my personal take on it is that there is. I don't think Bandai's gonna do this, but there is a world where maybe, like, if only Law gets hit, then it could be expected that Lucci becomes like the best deck, the top dog that is maybe like oppressively good like Sakazuki. You could argue that banning Gecko is the way to hit it, but another way is to like hit Tempest Kick to just tone it back just a little bit, because Lucci and Gecko Moria are the only two black leaders that actively use Daydrop Gecko like well. I mean, you've seen this too, Chris, like with other
I
black
was gonna say, what
leaders.
about Isha?
Well, like Corona too, right? Corona actually isn't a very good Gecko Moria leader.
Yeah, she has like one Gecko play, and if Riomu's not in trash, it doesn't mean
Yeah.
anything.
And like the
Or
other
Riomu's
black
not-
leaders too was like
Yeah.
Smoker and what other black leaders I'm forgetting. Like they don't really do a great job of leveraging Moria. The only other black leader that does a very good job of leveraging Moria is the Black Yellow Luffy. But if
Yeah.
we hit the A drop Moria, it's like Lucci gets toned back like pretty heavily, but so does Black Yellow Luffy.
Yep.
And actually I think Black Yellow Luffy becomes like near unplayable if we lose the A drop Moria. So I could see it where they might hit Tempest Kick to tone back Lucci just a little bit. Because I think Moria leader is okay where it is. And Black Yellow Luffy is also like okay where it is.
This is the card that I want hit.
I agree.
Logic being that it's the only card leader locked in the situation that we're talking about, where it's
Yeah.
like you don't want to affect him any other decks. This is the card that I think is the problem. It hits it breaches barriers that like it's better than Navy HQ because Navy HQ was only a -1 after it was played. This is just this is a -2, and then for 2 you can get another -2. I've at locals last night last night I got like high rolled into like triple brook into triple stage, and it like what do I do there? Like this card's crazy. This card's crazy. I think it should be hit. This is the only card that should be hit because it doesn't affect everything else. Rebecca's the only other card that could do that and not affect a lot of other decks, but then you affect Moria too. So it's a hit or miss on that situation, but I'll let you guys discuss on that one for a stage.
Yeah, I think this card is very ban worthy. Because I think like the Power Grade Eruption, for example, is like you play it and then like you break even and you get the minus or whatever. You do go neg the turn you play this card, but for the rest of the game, you're just sitting on a free -2 every single turn.
Yep.
That makes literally no sense. It makes no sense. Like this card just existing on the board all of a sudden means that 3-cost Brook is popping 3s with no extra investment whatsoever. Then you throw in your leader ability. Brook is popping 4s consistently without spending any Dawn. Like,
Yep.
I think this card is so overtuned. I think it's dumb that this card even exists. I would love to see this card be banned. I think this card does way too much. A -2 for the rest of the game is like you literally can't even like stick like there's no reality where it's like I'll stick my like Kuzan out there or whatever. Like if you don't see Kuzan on curve, for example, if it's like turn 4 or whatever, Kuzan's never hitting the board because you can't be like I'll put him on having the removal. Because if stage is out there, it's there. Like, if stage is there and leader's there, that's 3 Dawn on its own. Anything in that deck is killing any 4 calls, you know? Like,
It's
I
kinda
use
like
cards.
both in that sense. It's just like everything else in the deck once it's on board becomes like so much more alive.
God.
The reason I also want this card hit, and it's because Lucci can be played without stage.
Yeah.
But when you're like the reason I think this card would be critical to ban is like when you build for the stage, if you don't see the stage, your deck's pretty much ass for the most part.
No,
Like it does not feel like a good deck when you're not built for not having stage. Because when you're not running stage, you're running like Kaku's and 6-drop Brooks more because you can hit a higher range of pop. But when you enable this card and this card's live, like and it's on turn 2, the other thing that gets me at this card, and it's just because I play against Arvin, it's the trigger, dude.
Yeah.
They don't open it, they don't see it. I swing for them for 5. They're like, yeah, I'll take it. I'm a 5 health leader. First trigger is the stage, and I'm like, oh my god, I just lost the game. Like you can't even control it. Like it happened. Like it's there, it happens. They didn't even have to waste 2 Dawn. They had
Bro,
to again,
and
it's
at
very
least-
similar to Moby Dick. It's very
At
similar.
least that's
Yeah.
well, I was gonna say I think it's different than Moby Dick because they do have the same trigger, but at least with Moby Dick, like it triggers, it comes out, and it's just sitting there looming, waiting.
Yeah.
Whereas if like they hit this turn, if this comes out of life on like turn 2, it is sitting there and it is oppressing you for the rest of the game because there's just no stage removal or anything. Like it is like Moby Dick is one of those things where it's like it comes out and then at least for like it's like, all right, I guess I'm on a clock or whatever. I have to try to wrap this up before Moby Dick becomes a factor. Whereas this comes out of life and then you probably like it's probably so hard to even be in a position to win the game. Because all of a sudden, a game that was very playable, you can't even keep bodies on the board anymore because it just came out of the life. Like, I don't know. This is a card I have. I will play devil's advocate here. People do argue this card shouldn't be banned because it isn't searchable. But I will say that's the end of playing devil's advocate. It's just stating that because I don't see why that matters. I don't think that matters at all.
Who cares before of it?
If that was the logic behind every card up on this fucking tier list, most of the broken cards are not searchable, guys. Kabaji was not searchable. Black Maria is not searchable in the deck that it's broken in. Reiju is not searchable
when
in
it
the
got
deck.
banned.
Exactly, right? Like, these cards are not bannable. Like, they're not bannable because they're not searchable. That's a crazy logic. Crazy.
Next, we move on to Sabo. So now, a lot of people are saying, God, I find it so crazy, but a lot of people are saying they think Sabo is going to be banned because Gecko Moria is a problem card. However, he has gotten a reprint. So if they're going to attack black, they don't think they'll do it through Gecko. They'll do it through Sabo. Well, I do think the reprint means that Gecko probably won't be touched. I don't know why you'd ever hit Sabo. Not to mention, I do think a hit like Sabo, people will say like, and they're not even necessarily wrong. Actually, I think they're right. Like if you hit like Gecko Moria, for example, like Black Yellow Luffy dies. Bro, if you hit Sabo, that deck is literally unplayable. That deck is literally unplayable.
Super dies.
So like, to the people saying that like, oh, because Gecko Moria got an alt art, Whitebeard got an alt art in the same set. It was limited.
Oh, he didn't just get an alt, he got a treasure rare.
Like I remember because I won this card in the regionals.
Yes.
It was like a top 16 prize
That's
card.
what I meant when I said treasure rare. That's
Oh,
what I meant.
Like the next week it got banned. I'm like, what?
Yeah. Like it's these like that's a shit take as well.
No,
Sabo can't be banned because BY Luffy is unplayable. Gecko, if it gets banned, BY Luffy is actually still playable, in my opinion. You just have like a different. You have a different. I think you would try to play a different advantage engine. Moria's advantage because it's for one to do your shtick, right? But there's other ways to maybe get advantage in that deck, and it's like playing more Kuzans, right? Or like just doing something like that. There's other ways around it.
No, I agree. I think this is, every time I hear that take, I find it so crazy.
I just personally hate this card because every time it's played, it protects the board, and it's like, what?
Well, I mean, I agree as a Gecko player.
As a former Sokka player, I would also agree.
Like, yeah,
I don't like that it does that.
The card's not foin, but fun to play. Foin? It's not fun to play against, but that's why it is also down here. It's like, it's annoying. That's it, but that's about it.
Yeah. I find it like so not problematic that like I had to update the text because I can't even say that this card's problematic. It does what it does well, but that's not a problem, you know. Next we come to Rebecca. I don't want to lead on this one. Someone else do it.
As far as what I think Bandai would do, I don't think they're gonna hit this card whatsoever.
I don't think so either.
I think this card should go to one copy. I think it's kind of like a power card where it's like the extra copy of another 20 cards in your deck, which is a little bit like overtuned for what it is, especially based on the fact you can play it off of Gecko, which maybe the argument then is like Gecko should be banned, but I think Rebecca in of herself is already like a very strong card individually. Like I wouldn't be surprised if she'd be like a Yu-Gi-Oh restriction, like just a one-off in your deck that every black deck can play.
The only issue that I have with this card is when it's played in tandem with Spandine. Funny enough, like that's the only time I ever have a problem with this card nowadays. Is like okay, in the, let's say the Rob Lucci mirror, I clear the board and then I pass to my opponent and then they play one Moria and they have 5 bodies on the board again. I'm like, wait a minute, what? I just cleared all that. Why is it back?
Yeah,
like, that is the only time that I'm like, okay, get this card out of the game. Other than that, though, it's just a 4. It's a 4-drop. Other than that, I just don't have issues with it. I don't.
The way I see Rebecca though is that she's in some cases like she's just so flexible, and like for example with Rebecca into 3-cost Brook, she's almost like a double block because she comes on the board, she brings out Brook maybe kill the thing, and then your opponent is like maybe obligated to swing into your rested Brook. So that took the
Yeah.
swing, and then like maybe the Rebecca's still on the board, so she gets to absorb another swing. So it's like she blocked twice. You know.
I think she does do a lot for forward on, because you know sometimes there's like maybe you have like Hina in hand or whatever.
Yeah.
If you're like if you're on Gecko for example, you have a Hina in hand. The fact that like you could pick up a 2K then play the Hina and stuff like that. But like I think that this card is only a problem in one deck, and I think we've already kind of like established that like if you were to go after Lucci, you'd probably just take the stage. I would like to see this card limited also, but yeah, I think that kind of like, oh my god, I do think that kind of like she isn't. I can't see like I can't imagine a world where like you hit this card and the cause is any other leader but Lucci. And I do think if we're in a world where we are hitting Lucci and we're going after Rebecca, I think that's asinine.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And I do
Again, like, I don't think Bandai's going to touch this card at all.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
I also want to preface like, yeah, what I'm saying by the like, and I think Colin kind of hit it on the head. There was like, the card, as like one of our labels state there in the tier list, is like, it's annoying when it does said thing. I only find it broken when it's played with a Moria in tandem with the Spandy. That is the only time I find it broken. I find it annoying in every other situation.
This card is pretty mid in like Gecko, for example. There's never like a Gecko play that I do with a Rebecca that is like disgusting, you know. It is strictly Lucci.
Yep.
But I guess on the topic of Gecko plays, 8-drop Gecko Moria.
It's so tricky to talk about.
Yeah.
It really is. It's like, it's one of those things that like Black needs, because if Black didn't have this card, Black's a shit deck, right? Like, can we all agree on that? I think for the most part, like pure Black decks do not do as well if they didn't have this value card.
Lucci is the only leader that makes this like actually broken, because I don't, like I said before, I don't think Black Yellow Luffy functions without having this card as its top end.
Yeah.
And Gecko Moria leader is actually like the weakest Gecko deck that like, he plays it the most consistently. His Gecko lines aren't like nearly as powerful as the other two decks I mentioned.
No, I agree. I remember literally yesterday at locals, one of the things I was saying is that like I think Gecko, funnily enough, why he doesn't have the most consistent Gecko. I do think he has like the weakest Gecko in the game, because for example, you watch Lucci do a Gecko, not only does he build an entire board, but like it ends with a Lucci coming out removing 2 bodies. And now that Geckos don't play Lucci anymore, like your Gecko play is only ever removing 1 body, and that's if you even have like the cost reduction to even pop something. Because now they've been dropping like a lot of Helmeppos too. Even Great Eruption doesn't exist anymore, so a lot of the time your Gecko comes out and it's popping a 4 cost, and it doesn't usually go above that. If you still play Helmeppo, it pops a 5.
Or you're going for like, Hogback to pick up your second Gecko or a 2K, like you're going, but yeah, you're just trying to outvalue your opponent, not like completely blast their board.
I will say though,
sorry, that was like my whole point. It's like, and I should have clarified. It's like Lucci is not a good deck if this card doesn't exist. I am on the boat. I'm on the train that like BYLV can function without this card. I don't think it's definitely. It's not as good as it is. I'm not going to deny that, but like there are other ways for that deck to get value. We just don't play them because this card exists. There's gotta be. I'm sorry, they don't make that deck and it only relies on this card. They made it like that archetype.
Ooh.
Dude, I think the deck dies. So the reason I think that is because Gecko is the only thing that lets them like consistently be a 9K leader. Because I do think like later on in that game, if it weren't for the fact they become 9K, it'd be so much easier to just consistently close out games against them. Because if that's pretty much it. It's just the fact that they're 9K. That's honestly
I won't deny like your babies are always accessible, so that's always nice. Maybe my point was like, point standing is like realistically don't ban the card. You can't really hit the card. That's why I started with like this card is hard to talk about, because you can't do anything to it because you're hurting too much.
I think something needs to be done about Lucci as a deck specifically, not the rest, but like not Black as a color.
Yeah.
So like I think Ennis Lobby and or and or Tempest
I
Kick
will say
would be the I agree with you guys, probably more so Endy's Lobby than Tempest Kick, but either or could tone it back just enough to where Lucci's probably more reasonable.
Yeah.
So I will say one thing, just to get out there. So I think this will be the hot take since I'm the Gecko player, but well, I think Gecko is fine. I think it's a fine card currently. I think because it has no restrictions on like what it's not leader locked. It plays a 2 and a 4. It's not color locked or anything. I do think as the color pool grows and whatnot, this eventually is a card that is ban worthy. You know, I just think currently right now there just isn't much more to do with it outside of Rebecca Spanding Lucci. I think it has a really disgusting play currently, but I think that's just like right now. At some point, I do think we'll.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe like Black Purple, the new Gear 5 Black Purple Luffy from Set 9 gives us a run for our money, and he just like spams his card too. Like that could totally happen.
Ideally, I think it would just be eroded to only be played in Thriller Bark. But I guess it could go one of two ways. I would like it to either be eroded to only work with Thriller Bark leaders, or I would like to see it restricted so that at least other black leaders that mill the Gecko are now forced to play the Hogback. You know? You know, I do think that there should be like, I do think Gecko should be the most proficient user of his 8-drop. So him playing it the most consistently and everything, is why I do think I would like to see it restricted, because I think a restriction would do that for Gecko. It'd be some kind of incentive to at least play the leader over Lucci.
The issue forever with the Gecko leader is the fact that you can never use Gecko leader's ability in tandem with the Moria. So like that will forever be the issue with that deck. Because Lucci doesn't need any Dawn, and Luffy needs specifically 2 Dawn. So like it's just using it's just too much advantage in the other decks.
Yeah, you give up the ability to play Gecko and leader ability in exchange for being able to recur Gecko throughout the game. Which I guess is a decent trade-off. I don't think it's good enough. Either way, I guess saying Gecko's not ban-worthy, but also shouldn't be restricted. I do think that'd probably be considered a very hot take.
It's right there. I think you have it right. It's right there.
It's going to be a hot take for a lot of people, but I think that's the fairest way to put it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I do think that is the case.
It's broken whenever you've like grinded the game with Lucci and it's the one card, it's like the last card in hand or it's the top deck. Then it's broken, right? Because it just flooded the board, it cleared your board, and they got card advantage on you.
Yeah.
Other than that, though, it's just a card. That's when it feels the most broken. But other than that, it's just annoying. It's a little bit problematic, but not enough to just ban it outright.
We have yellow. We're starting off with an L.
Just ban the whole color, man. I'm kidding.
You know what's funny? No, I do agree. So, Enel I think Enel's hard to talk about, because I do think all of the arguments I would usually use to warrant banning a leader do apply to Enel. However, I don't think Enel is ban-worthy. I think Enel is so hard to talk about, though, because like he's a leader where it's so hard to balance him by hitting cards specifically within his deck, just because like I think Enel is a great example of like the final product being greater than the sum of all its parts or whatever. Like I think all the cards individually are kind of whatever, but when they all come together within Enel, all of a sudden it's why it becomes, that's when it becomes like, I guess, problematic, if you could even say that.
Yeah.
But like there's no one card you hit in Enel that like ever takes him out of the meta, and I don't think it's even healthy to ever want to take leaders completely out of the meta necessarily. I don't know. This is a leader that I would probably throw him in like problematic but not ban-worthy.
To be fair, like if as far as how much fun I'm having in a game, like just from a gameplay perspective, I'd much rather have NL be like the best yellow deck than Katakuri. Like, I
agree. I completely agree.
I think Katakuri in general is like way more infuriating to play against because it just has so much of a random element, whereas like NL you feel like you have more agency because like he's not swinging 7 at you every turn, so you're not forced to like punch into his life that early.
Yep.
Yeah. I also do like that Gecko. I do like that Enel has leaned. Kind of like you were saying, all the random elements of like Katakuri. Gecko. Enel has leaned further away from. I don't think he's Casino at all anymore. Honestly, he doesn't like. Most of them don't even play like Kikunojo anymore. Stuff like that. Usually, like the worst thing that's coming out of his life is like an Onami or the zero cost event, and those are kind of like sustained more than anything. They're never cheating out an extra body and killing you, like stealing the game that way or anything like that. I don't think the triggers really steal games anymore outside of this a poorly timed zero cost event.
The pop triggers.
Whereas before,
it's the pop triggers that can still get you, because like Law has this issue where like while it's trying to build a board, but you're trying to whittle down the Enel player. And Onamis and Rocket Luffy's are still really effective into you. That's what happened actually in Gen Con. Funny enough, that was my second to last round Enel player. He just had a good amount of pop triggers on me that kind of just whittled my board enough to where I couldn't claim the victory. And he also had like 5 high end, so I just won't go into that deeper. But to go to a point that you had, sorry to cut you off entirely. The triggers are, other than that, are just ass. Frankie's not good. The zero cost event doesn't trigger anywhere except for the last life. Beige is still annoying, but like again, because how you should be playing into an L, because it's a knowledge check at the end of the day, is like you should only be giving them leader ability once or twice a game. Maybe that. Like and it's like once is usually like the peak. Like that's what you're going for, is once. More often than not that it'll be 2, just because of how the deck plays. But yeah, that's about it on my thing. I think it's problematic. I won't go too any further as someone who I jammed a lot of Enel games. I don't ban worthy. It's just problematic.
Because I mean, the triggers are triggers at the end of the day, right? But it's not like where it was, where it's like every time you did hit Enel, something was happening. You know, like I don't think it's uncommon to like get Enel down to like 2 life and only have dealt with like
absolutely it doesn't. It's you know? Like it's more often than not you don't deal with that many triggers in Enel. Because honestly, they're just poorly timed. Like a lot of times, because Enel players will just take their life. A lot of them are not that good at the deck, so they're just like, oh yeah, I'll just take it. I'm Enel, I'll just take it. And like not knowing that like the strategy is supposed to like stay healthy in the early game, so you can grind to the late game, that type of stuff. So
beige. So this is a card, funnily enough, because it doesn't even really like. This is a card. I feel like it's not doing all the degenerate stuff that it used to do. Like you have to deal with it all the time and everything. I do still think that this is. God, I feel like a Dofi player complaining about 8-drop Kid in OP05. Like, because this is a card I honestly still would like to see be banned, because I don't think that this is core to like Yellow's identity or anything. I don't think this is a card that Yellow needs to have. I don't think this card serves any other purpose than to steal games.
Yeah.
So I think for like the health of the game, it could go, but realistically, the card existing isn't doing anything. It's kind of whatever. It's just there.
I'm like, I'm kind of indifferent about this card. It's like, from a game design perspective, this card feels like bullshit. Like if you're playing against it and it comes out at the right time, you're just like you don't feel like you don't feel like your opponent deserved that. Which I mean, like it is what it is. That's the game, right? And I think even as the NL player, you don't feel good about winning those kind of games. You're like, oh man, I'm so sorry, bro. Or maybe you do feel good. I don't know. But like,
I'm an evil person. It felt great. Let me tell you.
I will say, I do think a big part of it too is because like, I think a big part of the reason that this card kind of feels like whatever now too is because realistically you have to connect 3 attacks into an L to even kill him. So ideally, you should never really be going for lethal against an L with exactly the 3 attacks anyway. You're always playing with like a trigger like this in mind. There should always be like a buffer.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know. I think this card is strictly just annoying, and that's pretty much it.
And not because I know we've been talking a lot on this tier list and a lot longer than I was expecting. Specifically on we talked a lot about RP Law. There are no bannable yellow cards except for one, and that's reject. But we know why it's bannable. It's the whole like premise of like it just does something that just shouldn't be allowed in the game, right? Like I shouldn't just lose a life for 4 Dawn. It's just not something that should never happen.
Yeah.
Like opponents should just
Yeah,
not
reject's
go.
kind of bullshit.
Yeah, like that's
Let it go.
and that's it. That's it. Realistically, it's like I think every other yellow card at the end of the day is fair. It's annoying. It doesn't feel good. We get it. Whine about it more. We all whine about it too. Don't get me wrong. We're gonna complain in a tournament whenever we all meet up after a round. And we go, I just got luck sacked. Like I can't. You can't do anything about it. But that's the color's gimmick. You're taking away the gimmick if you take away all these cards from them.
Yeah. Yeah, the only bannable yellow card is already banned, so.
I would say though, the only other card left on here that I think is maybe ban worthy. Again, like I don't think Bandai's gonna do it, but it's maybe Raigo. Just for the reason that it gives NL that one extra axis of playing around a lot of strategies, in the sense that like a lot of your best ways of beating NL, and like usually like Yellow's historical weakness as a color was like other decks like just having way more boss monsters than they did, and like bigger boss monsters. But like Raigo kind of breaks that, where you just get to like take a turn off to like kill their boss monster and not die on the crackback because of the way it now works.
Yeah.
So that's the only one I could think of, because it does feel kind of ridiculous to go like big blue Kaido, draw 4 cards. Now I have this boss monster that can contest your other boss monsters that are on the board, and then you just Raigo it, and I'm like, oh well, I just lost like 10 Don worth of tempo.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's a card that I think I think it's dumb that Yellow even has access to a card like this.
Is it?
But,
Is it though? Because like
I don't think it's like. Well, the reason I think it's dumb Yellow has access to a card like this. I'm not saying I want it banned or anything, because that's what I was gonna get to.
Sorry.
The reason I think it's dumb that Yellow has access to a card like this is because I feel like, as far as controlling the board with events goes, I feel like that's a blue identity. I think only because there's this card. Even purple has one. Purple has one. It KOs, and it only hits an 8 drop, and it minuses 2 Dawn to do it. And it makes sense for purple to do it because purple's whole identity is tapping to other colors by minusing Dawn.
yeah.
So it seems so random that yellow's able to do it. You know, they have a 6 Dawn event that that removes a body when that is a blue thing, and then purple, which taps into blue. It's so random that yellow has it, that's the reason I don't think they should have it. But I don't think it's a big enough problem to take it from them. I don't think them having it is like the end of the world. It's one of those things I just kind of.
No, you're not wrong for that. I just think we left color identity like in set 2. Like color identity has been gone for a long time. Like one of the prime examples of color identity just not being a thing anymore is like the plus 3K or plus 4K events that also have a separate effect, right? Yes, they do something that in tandem play with like their color that they're in, but it's still plus 3 all of a sudden for 2 Dawn. Like, where are you? Why does blue have a plus 3 event when attacking?
I kind of look at it as like every color just getting their 0 cost event. You know, I do think the plus 3 is random as fuck.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Is like color identity has been leaving the game for a long. It's been leaving the game slowly but surely. Black is actually becoming almost like in par with like spot removal. Like pistol, I think actually pistol is a really underrated card in Lucci, and it needs to be looked at more.
Finger pistol, you mean?
Yeah, finger pistol.
Yeah.
Thank you. Like that card as an event is crazy. It does so much for every black deck. It's not just Lucci. Like Gecko runs that card, I think, pretty effectively as well, because it's a 4-on spot removal that hits any threat. It hits higher threshold than even Gecko can hit most of the time. Like 5 costs are very hard for Gecko to hit. To go to what you're saying of like blue has this identity of removing things with events. Like we're leaving that stage. We've been leaving that stage for a very long time.
I don't disagree, because I also think we've been leaving that stage. I think it started OPO3 though. I literally think it started with the introduction of yellow. Because, you know, there was the whole, like, KO was Red's thing, and then Black kind of came out, and then Black kind of took over doing the whole KO thing. But then Yellow came out, and then Yellow KOs, it rushes, it's now controlling board through events. I don't think there's anything that Yellow can't do at this point, like, outside of, like, bottom decking and, like, power reduction. Like, they do it all.
Yeah.
Actually, yellow has power reduction now.
And
wait, really?
Yeah, it's a trigger event. It's a trigger character that it plays. I believe, I don't know if it's it, but I think his name's like Galdivis or something like that. But it's a minus 3k to the
Galdivis?
board. Yeah, it's
All right,
minus
well, look at
3k
that.
to 2 characters.
Excuse me.
Yeah, like
It comes right back to yellow, bro. It's yellow.
Yeah, like well, we have to also understand that the creator has been on record, I believe, stating that
Favorite color.
favorite color. Like we should not expect this color to get everything.
Yeah. His favorite color is yellow. His favorite character is Katakuri.
God, what an L. What an L.
I think I would stick it in problematic. Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Yeah, I don't think there's much other than discussion on that. It's an annoying card. It's a great card though. It's what yellow needed. Unfortunately, it's like what yellow needed to keep up because like and now like yellow couldn't deal with like 4 geckos back to back, and now they have Stussy. Like what the fuck is Stussy? Like that's actually like it's not on here for good reason. Stussy's not a great card, but Stussy is just Raigo on legs. Like. And beautiful legs, by the way. But it's legs.
Garter strap even.
Yellow needed this. We love to hate on it, but yellow needed it. That's just it.
No, I think every color should have a weakness somewhere, and I think yellow struggling dealing with big bodies. I think that was fine. I think they were allowed to have that problem.
Yeah, me
I
too.
hate.
But yellow does struggle, right? Like yellow outside of its blade big blast is struggling. Like that's why yellows are not. Yellow has never been the best deck. It's been a deck. That's a different discussion.
No.
I don't think yellow is. I think yellow is still lacking. There are things that it's still lacking. We'll just discuss.
Yeah,
that
that's because this video is already long enough. We have 0 cost event.
I didn't.
So, what you say, something, Trevor?
Same as Beige.
You think so?
No, same as Beige. Colin said it too. Is like same as Beige. It only comes up as the 0 cost event trigger in the last
Basically,
life.
it's beige, isn't it? Yeah.
It's basically Beige.
It's actually worse than Beige. It's like
Well,
it's worse than Beige because Beige can be activated in the second to last life. This has to be the last life.
yeah, but when you're
It's
in
more
now,
tilting than Beige, I would argue. Like, it's more tilting.
I think this
Yes.
card's more tilting when it does something like put a beige in your life.
Kill a Beige.
Yeah. But yeah, now that it's not as trigger heavy as it used to be, this card, like now it kind of just is an extra life, and that's essentially. Whereas like a set ago, this could turn into like a Kikunojo and kill you, So
The fact that we're stating that this card in tandem with other cards is annoying means that this card cannot be annoying, right? Like it's annoying because of what it enables, not what it like. I don't know if I'm wording this properly, but like
no, you are.
it by itself is not the problem. It's the fact that it does other things with the leader and like other cards in the deck that are the problem. Again,
Yeah, I do think
annoying or not problematic or annoying. Yeah. Anyways,
it is tilting to watching an now kill 2 life off of something like this. But yeah, I do think it does come back to like the beige thing where it's like when you do attempt game, you're not attempting to push until you have like 4 viable attacks anyway, because you're playing specifically around bullshit like this. Unless you're just bad, you're just gonna like throw. I guess that brings us to Ace. This is a card I don't think yellow should have gotten, but I don't think it's a problem.
I think Enel should not have gotten this card. I think every other yellow leader.
I agree. No, I don't think that yellow should have got a top end body that rushes. I think that is so stupid. When this card was revealed, I was so excited. I was like, oh my god, they've done it. Red has got good top end. And they're like, bro, it's not red. I was like, what?
I don't know if our stream is anything to go off of, but man, playing this in Lakers Croc, it just does not hit the same. I'm like, I do not feel safe with this card.
Yeah.
Like Enel is like the single leader that leverages it the best. Every other yellow leader doesn't feel comfortable enough to like be at 2 life when your opponent has like a Moria board,
Yeah. No, I agree. I think I don't know. It's one of those things. I think it comes back to like Raigo, for example. I don't think Enel should have gotten Raigo. I don't think Enel should have gotten Ace. But now that they're here, I'm annoyed that they're here, but I don't think that they're like, I don't think they need to be taken from him because he's not like an oppressive force or anything. You know, he's one of the best decks, but like the fact that he's even like one of the best decks, you know, it's not like OP08 red purple law where like there are no other decks, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of that's where I'd put.
I
would
think
put
it's
Ace.
a problem at all. I think.
Yeah, no, I don't either.
Well, I'm in the point of view that Enel does deserve this card because outside of this card, like its heal was Yamato, and that was like the heal didn't sometimes happen because you're at 2 health. Like that was the strategy into Enel is you just choke them at 2 health, and like when a deck can just be played into like pretty well, like that is a strategy into Enel before Ace existed. But now that Ace exists, you have to play differently into Enel, which is healthy. I think that's healthy. I don't think it should be like.
My problem.
Go ahead.
My problem with it just comes back to the same thing I was saying earlier about like Raigo, where it's like, I don't think that colors that aren't red. It comes back to color identity. I think it comes back to yellow stepping on the toes of the other colors and not respecting color identity. That's the only reason I don't think they should have gotten it.
Dude, if you were.
But that's
if that's your issue, then like 10-drop Big Mom should have never existed, right? Because that pretty much just rushed at you. It healed and burnt your life.
Yeah, no, I do think that is true, but at least Yellow pretended that it didn't rush. Ace just does it.
Oh no, I can block the Ace. Oh, but wait, you can't block the 10-drop Big Mom.
Yeah,
I will say though, with the Enel topic, is that if Law gets hit, and Lucci gets hit, and maybe even Black Yellow Luffy get hit because Moria got hit, I could
it now becomes a problem.
I could see Enel being just ever so slightly overtuned. I know what Asian players are saying, like they're like, oh, it's a fake deck, blah blah blah. But I mean, it's still a really strong deck, so maybe like one of those 5 factors that we have on the list, or I guess 4 cards that we have on the list, gets like removed, makes it just like it just like adjusted to like just the perfect spot, I feel like. But that's like assuming everything else in the meta gets hit also to like put everyone on an even keel.
Yeah. The only other deck that
agree.
thrives with this, like that type of ban, also is Nami. I think actually Nami is the best deck at that point, by the way. Funny enough, and that's just because Enel is still too slow.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just unfortunate. Like you can't. The reason I don't think we're gonna get a like crazy ban list like everyone wants right now is like because if they do, then like decks that just are not fun are the king of the hill. And unless Bandai really just does not want this Nats in September to thrive, they cannot murder every deck in the format.
Yeah, like my prediction is going to be one of 2 things. It's like either A, and I think this is the more likely scenario, is that Law gets hit hard and Lucci maybe loses Annie's lobby. Or just like something happens to Lucci and that's it. Like maybe Law loses 1 card, Lucci loses 1 card, and that's it. Or it becomes like a giant crucifixion where it's like every good deck gets something hit. Which I don't think Bandai's going to do that. It's probably going to be the worst.
I don't think so. Yeah. My prediction is that I think Red Purple Law gets banned, and I think maybe into greater option. I think Annie's Lobby gets banned alongside Red Purple Law. And then I think that if you do those, you do have to do something to keep Yellow in check, but I don't think Bandai will. So that's where my predictions end.
I'll throw my prediction out there. I think the only thing that I think, funny enough, this is gonna actually be a really shitty ban list. They're only gonna future-proof the game, and they're just gonna ban Black Maria, or they're gonna either ban or errata Black Maria. And the logic being is that they don't want to hurt their Nats format.
I would not be surprised if that's the only hit.
No,
like
I wouldn't
Nats format.
Yeah, I don't.
You don't want to hurt. That hurts your game because like I know a lot of people putting time in on RP Law. If they lost all that time because they just all of a sudden got it banned, and now mind you, you have a lot of time before Nats still. We have over a month before Nats, but it's still like Yeah, you don't want a good chunk of your players getting mad at you because you banned an entire deck. Again, don't ban decks, ban cards.
Yeah, and to that point too,
Yeah.
I would expect if there was a ban list, like say for example Black Maria gets banned, I wouldn't be surprised if Bandai says, okay, for English format, once OP8 drops, you get 1 month to play with Black Maria and Laud Full Power, and then it's gone. I don't think they're gonna pre-ban Black Maria or pre-ban Law. Like, I they could do it. I wouldn't be surprised, but my money is on them giving us like a bit of a grace period, maybe like a month or two to like play with Full Power Law.
I think so too. I was gonna say unfortunately. I don't know if it's unfortunate.
Depends on who
I
you
don't
ask.
know. Oh,
Check out Sun Pirates. We upload pretty regularly.
Yeah.
I mean,
Weekly.
weekly.
Yeah. Subscribe to Small Hat Crew. Subscribe to Sun Pirates TCG, please.
with that being said, though, until next time, we will
Yeah.
see you guys.
Yeah.